What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This week we got UFC Fight Night, Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. Pretty good card overall. A lot of good fights have fallen off of it, unfortunately, like Dominic Cruz, Edson Barbosa, Curtis Blades. They all had fights and had to pull out, but still a decent card overall, and we're going to go ahead and get right into the full card predictions. So without any further ado, our first fight on the card, we got Bakauskas versus Rafael Cerqueria. Rafael Cerqueria made his UFC debut on UFC 308, got knocked out in the first round. He fought a lot of cans on the way to the UFC, not a lot of high-level experience whatsoever, only on the regional scene in Brazil, and Aslan just ran through him easily. He doesn't seem to be a high-level fighter, and he trains out of the same gym as Bruno Silva. He's not very good either, so I don't think he has very good training partners. That's just an assumption, but Bakauskas, decently well-rounded. He's fought in high levels of competition in the UFC. Pretty sure he trains with Tom Aspinall now, so decent training partners, decent environment to get better. I'll take him to win in decision here, 29-28. Maybe Rafael can have some moments early, but I'll take the more experienced guy to win a decision. Our next fight on the card, we got Klien versus Abdul Malik. I'm taking Abdul Malik to win this via first round TKO. On the Contender Series and in his UFC debut, he looked really impressive, just super aggressive, super powerful, athletic as hell, and he seems to have a lot of natural talent. I don't think he's going to have any issue just basically bulldozing Klien, who is a decent fighter. He had a nice little win on the Contender Series as a big underdog, but he's just not the type of guy that's going to be able to survive Abdul Malik. Yeah, Abdul Malik's going to go in there, get a first round TKO. Sure thing. Klien, he's good, but he is not going to be able to weather the storm in this one. Abdul Malik by round 1 TKO. Our next fight on the card, we got Ricky Simón versus Javid Basharat. I'm going to take Ricky Simón here to win a decision. Ricky Simón, he's been a little bit underwhelming in some of his fights. You know, he lost to Uriah Faber, got knocked out by Song Yadong. Last time out, got schooled by Vinicius Oliveira, but you know, he's a decent fighter, had a decently close fight with Merab, technically won that via submission. And Javid Basharat, he just hasn't faced a good level of competition. You know, he's beaten guys like Tony Gravely and stuff like that coming up. And he lost to Amin Zahabi in his last fight. Zahabi's not bad, but I just don't think Javid Basharat is very effective in the cage, doesn't have a lot of damaging ability on the feet, and, you know, doesn't really sub a lot of guys. He's not dangerous on the ground. I think Ricky Simón, he has good enough grappling to not get ragdolled. And I think on the feet, you know, he's the hometown guy here. I'm pretty sure he's from this area in Seattle. So he's going to be fighting with some heart. I think that heart's going to take him to winning a decision. I think he's just going to be able to outdog Javid Basharat, who, you know, is decently technical, but he just doesn't have any dog in him. I think Ricky Simón can pull this one out via decision, 29-28. Our next fight on the card, we have Nursultan Ruziboev versus McConico. Short notice fight here. I'm going to be taking Nursultan Ruziboev. I think Nursultan Ruziboev is still pretty good. He lost to Joaquin Buckley last time out. I picked him in that fight, but, you know, didn't look awful. Like, he lost convincingly, but Buckley has proven to be a very high-level fighter. You know, he's gotten good wins in the UFC over Bruno Ferreira. That was a good knockout win he got. And even though he had like an eye poke before it, did finish Cedric Dumas. So I think he's a hungry fighter. I think he wants to get back in the win column here. I would assume that he's more ready for this fight than McConico, who has not been active in his career, rarely fights. I think he's more of a coach, probably just stepping in to try his luck, cash a check. I think Nursultan Ruziboev is going to get the job done. I'll take him to win via round 2 TKO for Nursultan. And he's like 6'8", huge for the division, like 3-mile long reach. The dude is like a tree. He's fucking huge in there. I think he'll be able to just use his length, tag him on the chin with something eventually. So yeah, like I said, round 2 TKO for Nursultan Ruziboev. Our next fight on the card, we got Billy Ray Goff versus Fugitt. Adam Fugitt coming in off a win over Josh Quinlan, but Josh Quinlan, very low level of competition, and Adam Fugitt, he's just one of these apex guys that are kind of run-of-the-mill, not too good anywhere. He's decent striking. He has decent striking, volume kicks, but Billy Ray Goff has a good style to counter that. Billy Ray Goff is an absolute dog. In his last fight versus Trey Waters, just went to absolute war, fight of the night, super impressive. And even though he didn't get his hand raised, it was still a very close fight. I think Trey Waters is a bit better than Adam Fugitt. Maybe doesn't have as many tools, but I think he's better with the long rangey, straight shots, especially with the boxing. I think Billy Ray Goff can, just close the distance, make it a dog fight, get some takedowns in there, and just out volume him, out dog him, and eventually work his way to a round 3 TKO. So yeah, I'm going to pick Billy Ray Goff via round 3 TKO. He kind of reminds me of like a Dricus du Plessis, just a guy that goes in there, lots of heart, lots of toughness, grit, and he gets the job done. And he's not fighting Trey Waters, who is a trickier matchup than an Adam Fugitt. So yeah, give me Billy Ray Goff via round 3 TKO. Kind of just an exhaustion ground and pound TKO. Our next fight on the card, we got Cutelaba versus Ibo Aslan. I'm going to take Ibo Aslan to get it done via round 1 knockout. I think that Ibo Aslan is a pretty good fighter. I mean, he's not super technical or clean or anything like that, but he knows how to impose his will. He knows how to use his power. And in the Anton Turkalj fight, showed to be improving in terms of being well-rounded, takedown defense, stuff like this. And his KO power did hold up until the 3rd round, where he was able to get that finish. In his last fight, got a nice round 1 TKO over Rafael Cerqueria. Lower level of competition than an Cutelaba, but Cutelaba, he's been a guy that's been knocked out plenty of times. I mean, he's faced the who's who in the light heavyweight division. Fought Ankalaev twice, did get stopped in both of those fights. Has a win over Khalil Roundtree. He's fought everybody in the light heavyweight division. He's been around forever, but he's a low IQ fighter. He is a guy that will slug in the pocket if he doesn't have a massive skill advantage. Like in his last fight, he was fighting a guy, what was his name? Like, it started with an A. I forgot the dude's name that he was even fighting, but it was like a 36-year-old out of KSW who was just really low level. Got the job done there and actually mixed it up and had a decent performance, but that's only when he has a skill advantage, like a heavy skill advantage, which he will not have in this fight. Ibo Aslan's the better fighter, better boxing, younger, faster, hits harder, and I think he's going to go in there and, get the round 1 TKO. Like I said, both of these guys are aggressive. They're going to clash in the middle of the octagon, and I definitely favor Ibo Aslan getting the job done. So yeah, I got him by round 1 TKO. Just big right hand down the pipe, follow up hammer fist, gets the job done. I think he's going to be a really exciting fighter in the light heavyweight division. I would like to see Ibo Aslan take on Artem Vakitov in the light heavyweight division. I think that would be a good fight. Our next fight on the card, Andre Fili versus Menefield Costa. I'm going to be taking Andre Fili here to win a decision. Looked good in his last fight versus Cub Swanson. It wasn't a dominant performance, but got the job done. Did what he was supposed to do, and he does have a good amount of UFC experience. Did get knocked out not too long ago by Dan Ige, but no shame in that. Dan Ige hit super hard. Menefield Costa, he's been kind of unimpressive in the UFC. Lost his debut to Thiago Moises. Was able to get the job done over some lower level fighters. Got a submission in his last fight. Also got TKO'd by Steve Garcia brutally. Seems to be a guy that doesn't have a lot of grit. Kind of has durability issues. And yeah, I just don't think he is going to be able to win a tit for tat battle on the feet with Andre Fili. Costa, he does have good BJJ and submissions, but he doesn't have great wrestling. Doesn't really have the ability to get the fight down to the mat at will. And if it's going to be striking for 3 rounds, I favor Andre Fili to get the job done. More volume, a little bit faster on the feet, and yeah, more experience in striking battles against higher levels of competition. I favor him to get the job done, 29-28 for Andre Fili decision. Our next fight on the card, we got Julius Walker making his debut versus Alonzo Menefield. Julius Walker, 6-0. I haven't watched this guy fight. I won't lie. Yeah, I haven't watched the guy fight, but 6-0 record, light heavyweight, you gotta imagine that he's pretty solid, probably has some power. Alonzo Menefield, we know the deal with him, lots of power in his hands. Lost last time out versus Carlos Ulberg, where he fought like an idiot, really. Just kind of slugged in the pocket as soon as the fight started and got caught with a left hook. But we have seen him, have some good performances. He has plenty of knockouts. Had a nice win over Dustin Jacoby where he inflicted a lot of damage, got multiple knockdowns. And yeah, we know the deal with Alonzo Menefield. I think he can get the job done by round 2 TKO here. Like I said, haven't watched Julius Walker before, but I'll favor the guy with the UFC experience. Walker's undefeated, so you never know, he might be good, but gotta trust the UFC tested fighter. I'll take Menefield by TKO. Our next fight on the card, we have John Silva versus Malik Baghdasaryan. Malik Baghdasaryan, he's a good striker. He's had some TKOs in the UFC, some wins in the UFC. Was able to beat Dennis Bazooka on the Contender Series, but very inactive guy and just isn't a super high level fighter. Decent striker, but just isn't super high level. Kind of reminds me of like an Armin Petrosian. John Silva, on the other hand, super high level, very well rounded, tough as a dog, nasty power in his hands, trains out of the Fighting Nerds gym, lots of momentum behind him, fights with supreme confidence and composure. He's getting the job done one way or another, but I'm going to pick him to get the job done by round 3 TKO. I think Malik can survive, make it kind of competitive for the first round, round and a half, but eventually, kind of like in the Drew Dober fight, John Silva's just going to impose his will, start barking at him, and lay him out with a nasty combination. We saw him destroy Weston Wilson easy. He was able to beat Kevin Vallejos on the Contender Series, which was a great win. That win's going to age well. And last time out, looked fantastic against Drew Dober. Very creative striking, beautiful counters, elbows, spinning elbows. Very good defense as well. Boxing defense, doesn't get hit clean too often. And, nasty knockout power. We saw that against Charles Jourdain. Beautiful uppercut. He has good shot finding ability. Like I said, he's a composed fighter. Well-rounded as well. He can impose the grappling, I'm sure, if he needs to. He's getting the job done. He's a supremely talented fighter. A prospect here in the featherweight division. He was the rookie of the year, him and Carlos Prates, for a reason. He's going to shine in Seattle here in front of a crowd. He's going to get a big crowd pop. It's going to be, a highlight reel for John Silva. He's getting the job done, round 3 TKO. I'm looking forward to seeing John Silva's career unfold. Very entertaining, special prospect we have on our hands there. Our next fight on the card, we got Rob Font versus John Matsumoto. Rob Font was supposed to be fighting Dominic Cruz. Cruz had to pull out due to a shoulder injury and then had to retire, so that's very unfortunate. Tip of the cap to one of the best bantamweights of all time, a legend of the sport, Dominic Cruz, but very unfortunate. John Matsumoto steps in, and I'm actually going to be taking him to win this fight versus Rob Font. Rob Font did school Kyler Phillips last time out, but I think Matsumoto's better than Kyler Phillips. A very close and competitive fight with Brad Katona doesn't look good, but Matsumoto, he does have good grappling, does have submission ability, and he has a lot of weapons on the feet, good kicks, knees, elbows, punches. Kind of reminds me of a bantamweight Charles Oliveira, if you will. Young prospect on the come up, undefeated. Rob Font, he's had some fraud checks in his career. Not fraud checks, but beaten prospects. Like I said, Kyler Phillips, Adrian Yanez. He's had some really good wins. Cody Garbrandt, Adrian Yanez, Kyler Phillips, like I said. But he has taken some really bad losses where he's taken a lot of damage. The Cheeto Vera fight, he took a lot of damage. Kind of got schooled by Jose Aldo. Got schooled by Davidson Figueiredo. And I could see this fight being very similar to the Davidson Figueiredo one. John Silva, he's fresh, hasn't taken a ton of damage, was tested with his attrition last time out. I think he can, push through adversity now that he knows he can. We've seen the toughness from him, and I do think he's talented enough to be able to get the job done by decision. I think it's going to be a close fight because Rob Font, he's always game, very good boxing. He's boxed the head off of plenty of people, really put a beating on Cody Garbrandt in their fight. But John Matsumoto, I think The reason I like him here to get the job done is the grappling advantage. Rob Font, we have seen him held down by Jose Aldo shooting takedowns. Corey Sandhagen held him down with no adversity for 5 rounds with an injury. So that's not really something I like to see. So yeah, give me John Matsumoto to get it done 29-28. I think him being undefeated, young, doesn't know, loss yet in his career. We saw him push through adversity last time out. I think he can keep the momentum going, get the job done. Rob Font, a guy has taken a lot of damage. The durability is always going to be in question. So yeah, give me John Matsumoto. He has more ways to win in this fight. I'll take him to win a 29-28 split decision. It's going to be close, but I'll take him to get it, very narrowly on the cards. Our next fight on the card, we have Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez. Fluffy's going to melt this dude and destroy him. Round 3 submission. I've been saying this for a while. Anthony Hernandez will only lose to DDP and Chimaev. No one else is going to beat him in the middleweight division. He'll beat Imavov, he'll beat Baralho, he'll beat Cannonier. It would not even be funny what he would do to Izzy. I like Izzy. I'm a big Izzy fan. Anthony Hernandez might actually tie Izzy in a knot in the cage and just leave him there. Anthony Hernandez is a fucking issue in the middleweight division. He's basically the middleweight Marab with submissions. Look, Brendan Allen, he's a good fighter. He was able to get the jump on Paul Craig, out-grapple him, get a TKO there. Had a decent win in a close fight, 5-rounder versus Chris Curtis. But he's just well-rounded, and he does sometimes have cardio issues. You saw him gas out versus Chris Curtis in his last fight versus Nasruddin Imavov. Did gas out. Won the first round clearly with a good takedown and just held him down. But after that, he just gassed out. That's not a good look when you're about to fight Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. And, the striking's decent, but it's not powerful enough. It's not dynamic enough to stop Fluffy Hernandez from imposing his will and just melting you. Brendan Allen, he's kind of technical. He's got a decent little body kick, but he doesn't have any power. He's not knocking anybody out. And, he has been knocked out in his career. You look at the Chris Curtis fight. The first time Chris Curtis knocked him out. Anthony Hernandez, he's tough as a dog. He's taken nasty body shots from Kopylov and Pereira in the first rounds of those fights. Worked through it and just melted him, destroyed him, got the submission over Roman Kopylov, and then got the round 5 TKO over Michel Pereira. The loss to Kevin Holland by TKO really looks bad on paper because Kevin Holland is a disgrace to the sport and should literally be cut. I can't stand him. I can't stand his existence. Kevin Holland, fuck you, Gunnar Nelson by sub. But Anthony Hernandez is winning this fight. Brendan Allen, he's decent, well-rounded, but he's not a top 5 level guy. He's not a world-class middleweight. Anthony Hernandez is. And I think that Anthony Hernandez will be able to just ragdoll everybody, just like Marab. He's just going to shoot hella takedowns, wear you out, and then sub you or ground and pound TKO you. I got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez by round 3 sub. Just a masterclass, ragdolling Brendan Allen, doing whatever he wants in there, taking the back, getting in half guard, raining down elbows. Anthony Hernandez is literally just such a problem. And, I think that this dude has a really high ceiling. I think he has a really high ceiling because say Dricus beats fucking Chimaev somehow. I don't know, man. I just don't think Anthony Hernandez is a terrible, I think he has a decent chance to beat Dricus is what I'm trying to say. But he's going to beat Brendan Allen for sure. For sure. Round 3 sub. Fluffy. Easy. He's going to melt him. This dude's a problem. Wrestling machine. Imposes his will. Hella cardio. Hella takedowns. He did the same thing to Shabazian. He did the same thing to Kopylov, Pereira. The dude's nasty. He's getting the job done. All right, we move on to the main event of the evening. Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. Song Yadong, really good boxing. Decently well-rounded. He does have some wrestling. We saw that in the Chris Gutierrez fight. Trains at a Team Alpha Male, coached by Uriah Faber. The most standout part of his game is definitely his boxing. Has good power. You look at the TKO over Marlon Moraes, like beautiful combination there. Landed some good shots on Petr Yan and Corey Sandhagen in those fights. Did lose those fights. He had the very good knockout against Ricky Simón. Beautiful left hook there to finish that fight. And, you know, he has a lot of UFC experience, even though he's just only 27 years of age. Still a young fighter, still working his way into his prime. Still has a few years to go until he is in his prime. And yeah, sometimes I forget that he was in the UFC when he was, you know, like 20 or something like that. He's been in the UFC a long time, lots of experience. Henry Cejudo, we know the deal with Henry Cejudo, you know, the king of cringe, Triple C. He's got that Olympic wrestling background, former flyweight and bantamweight champion of the world. You look back at his championship victories and some of the ones before that, you know, the win over Sergio Pettis, fought Demetrius Johnson 2 times, beat TJ Dillashaw, a weight drained TJ Dillashaw. That win just really has question marks and asterisks around it, because if TJ Dillashaw wasn't, you know, doing the Paramount edit where he's falling into the pool and cutting weight and has all the drugs on the table and shit like that. You know the edit I'm talking about. That shit's tough. But if he wasn't Paramount edit TJ Dillashaw in that fight where he cut a ton of weight, I don't think he would have just got knocked out with one punch. But, you know, he had the win over Marlon Moraes, defended the belt versus Dominic Cruz on short notice. So, you know, his resume, it has some asterisks around it, but there's no denying that Henry Cejudo is a very, very talented fighter, a competitor, and he does have high-level wrestling for sure. He's had some gritty wins, you know, was able to smudge out a decision versus Demetrius Johnson, was able to grit down on the mouthpiece and finish the fight versus Marlon Moraes after, you know, getting leg kicked to shit in that first round. So, you know, he's had some really good performances for sure. This fight is actually kind of hard to call because, you know, you think about Song Yadong and you think about his wrestling. You know, you look back at the Ricky Simón fight, you look back at the Chris Gutierrez fight. He did decent in those fights in terms of his offensive wrestling in the Chris Gutierrez fight and his defensive wrestling in the Ricky Simón fight. But I think that his defensive ability is still kind of overrated. I mean, he does have a 72% takedown defense rate, but just looking at his record, I forget how much that this dude's taken down. He got taken down 5 times. 5 times by Cody Stamann. And he lost that fight. Or no, he drew that fight. But he still got taken down 5 times by Cody Stamann. Marlon Vera, Cheeto, fucking bum, took him down twice. He beat Cheeto Vera, but still, you know, got taken down twice. Kyler Phillips took him down 3 times. Casey Kinney took him down. Corey Sandhagen took him down. Petr Yan took him down. Ricky Simón took him down. It really seems that everybody that really tries to get a takedown on Song Yadong is kind of able to do it. And I remember Corey Sandhagen doing some pretty good work in top position after taking down Song Yadong. Don't get me wrong, Song Yadong has a good ability to get up to his feet, but, you know, I do think he actually kind of has a hole in his game in terms of the takedown defense. Offensively, he's actually pretty good, underrated, but I think that Henry Cejudo can exploit some takedowns against Song Yadong here. Now, the question mark is going to be, how does Henry show up? I mean, if he shows up how he looked in the Aljamain Sterling fight, where he looked really good, I thought that he won the fight watching it live, but watching it back, I thought he lost that fight. Just, you know, mainly on volume. Had some good moments, really did have some good moments, some slick takedowns, looked good in that fight. Looked good in the first round against Merab, but, you know, he broke his arm in the second round, and, you know, it's Merab. Everybody's going to get Merabed when they're fighting Dvalishvili. But, you know, it depends on what Cejudo shows up. If he still looks like he's kind of in his prime, I could see him getting the job done. You know, Song Yadong has gone 5 rounds before, twice actually, and he did go 4 rounds with Corey Sandhagen. So he does have solid cardio. I don't think he's just going to completely gas. So it's tough to call. Cejudo would just have to be able to scrape out a decision. I don't see him being able to finish Song Yadong. I mean, unless he just got lucky with the cut or something like that, a lucky punch. There's always room for that in this sport, but the logical pick is probably Song Yadong by TKO. It most likely is. But I think that Henry Cejudo might be able to turn back the clock here. Like I said, Song Yadong, he has been taken down a lot, and if Cejudo just really focuses on just chain wrestling the whole time, he could have some success here. He is getting old though. He's been out of the cage for a year. So if his cardio isn't there, he's going to get knocked out. But if his cardio can hold up, you know, he had really good cardio against Aljo. Merab is Merab, so that's kind of an X factor. That's kind of an outlier. If he has good cardio like he did against Aljo here, I could see him getting the job done and scraping by a little decision, because I don't think that Song Yadong is just going to put him out. I really don't. Henry Cejudo has always been tough, really hasn't taken a ton of damage in his career. He's never just been chinned. I mean, he got bullied up in the clinch versus DJ and finished that way, but that really wasn't a knockout. It was just a TKO. He was done. Henry Cejudo, I'll pick him to win a decision here. I'll pick him to win a decision 48-47. Very close for Henry Cejudo. I think he can wind back the clock one more time. I don't think he wins again after this fight, but I think Song Yadong might be a little overrated. He's a good fighter, but it seems like every time he takes a step up in competition, Corey, Peter, Kyler, he loses these fights. He loses when he takes a step up in competition. I think that could stay the same here. And yeah, I could see him taking an L against Henry Cejudo. If Henry Cejudo comes in crafty, couple tricks up his sleeve, plays it safe on the feet, chain wrestles, I could see him getting it done. The knockout threat is going to be there from Song Yadong, but I'll trust in Henry's toughness. Give me Henry Cejudo to wind back the clock one more time and scrape out a little 48-47. So yeah, those are my full card predictions. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, a comment, subscribe. That would mean a lot to me. Enjoy the card this weekend and have a great rest of your day.